Have you ever thought about this? How the relentless search for the absolute best choice, the best phone, the best vacation, the best meal, can sometimes, somehow, make us miserable. It's a total paradox, right? Today, we're going to dig into why that happens. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the central problem. We live in a world of just endless options. And you think that more choice is always a good thing, that it means more freedom. But it turns out, sometimes it just means more stress. You know the feeling. You're staring at a giant wall of cereal at the grocery store, or you're scrolling through Netflix for like 45 minutes, and instead of feeling excited by all the options, you just feel stuck, completely overwhelmed. Well, it turns out that's not just you. It's a real psychological thing. This was shown perfectly in this famous jam study. So researchers set up a tasting booth. One day, they offered 24 different kinds of jam. The next, they only offered 6, and the results were wild. When faced with 24 options, most people were too overwhelmed to buy anything. But with just 6 options, they were 10 times more likely to actually buy a jar of jam. And here's the kicker. They were also happier with the jam they picked. It's this incredible lesson that, nope, more choice isn't always better. So what is going on here? Well, the research boils it down to 2 basic ways people make decisions. You're either a maximizer or a satisficer. And figuring out which one you are, well, that's the key to understanding this whole puzzle. It really comes down to this. On one side, you have maximizers. For them, every choice has to be the absolute best possible one. They can't settle. On the other side, you've got satisficers. They're just looking for an option that's good enough. The fundamental question they ask themselves is totally different. Let's look a little closer at the maximizer. Think of them as being on an endless quest for perfection. They have to check every single option, read every review, compare every feature. Their goal isn't just to find something good, it's to find the one single best thing out there. That fear of missing out is what drives them. And then you have the satisficer. Their whole approach is way more practical. They've got a mental checklist, right? Is this car in my budget? Does it get good gas mileage? Is it safe? And as soon as they find something that ticks those boxes, boom, the search is over, they're done, they can move on without that nagging worry that maybe, just maybe, a slightly better option was still out there. All right, so you've got the person who hunts for the absolute best and the person who's cool with good enough. Logic might tell you that the maximizer, who probably gets objectively better things, would be happier in the end. But let's see what the science actually says. So who really wins the happiness game? Is it the perfectionist or the pragmatist? The research here is incredibly clear on this, and honestly, the answer might not be what you expect. Study after study found this really strong link. The more someone is a maximizer, the less happy they tend to be. It's a clear negative correlation. Satisficers, on the other hand, consistently score higher on all the measures of happiness. And a huge reason for this gap comes down to one single thing: regret. Maximizers feel way more of it. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because they've looked at so many different options, it's super easy for them to second-guess their choice and get stuck in that what-if loop. Satisficers, they're not as haunted by the ghosts of choices they never made. And this trend just keeps going. When you look at the big picture, overall life satisfaction, optimism, self-esteem, maximizers consistently report lower levels. The data is pretty clear. Even though they might be getting objectively better outcomes, they feel subjectively worse about them. Okay, so we've seen what is happening. Now let's get into the why. What is it about this noble quest for the best that actually ends up making people feel worse? The research points to 4 big psychological traps. First, like we saw, is regret. The second is that their expectations go through the roof. I mean, if you know there are 100 options, you expect one of them to be absolutely perfect, which is an impossible standard. Third, they get caught up in social comparison. How do you even know you have the best? Well, you see if it's better than what your friends have. And finally, self-blame. If your choice isn't perfect in a world of endless options, whose fault is that? Yours? To really see how this plays out, the researchers use this classic experiment called the ultimatum game. It's basically a negotiation, and it does a great job of showing how these psychological traps work in real time. And what they found was just fascinating. The maximizers in the game consistently said they were less satisfied with the outcome even when they made more money than the satisficers. Just let that sink in. Their dissatisfaction had nothing to do with the actual result. It was baked into their mindset from the start. It wasn't about how well they did, it was about how they felt about how well they did. So, after hearing all this, you're probably asking yourself, okay, so which one am I? Let's run through a few common traits to help you get a better sense of your own personal style. Just think about these for a second. Do you agonize over tiny purchases? Do you find yourself checking to see what other people bought before you feel good about your own choice? Do you take forever to decide because you just have to see everything? Do you often wonder if you could have done better? If this stuff sounds familiar, you might be leaning toward the maximizer end of the scale. Now, it's really important to say that this isn't about one style being good and the other being bad. I mean, you probably want your surgeon to be a maximizer, right? But that same mindset can be absolutely exhausting when you're just trying to pick a place for dinner. The whole point here is just awareness, understanding the hidden costs that come with your approach. And that really brings us to the final takeaway. It's the big question you have to ask yourself. Knowing that this constant, exhausting search for the absolute best often leads to more stress, more regret, and less satisfaction, is perfection really worth the price you have to pay in your own happiness?